There are ways to control desire without ever touching skin. Real emotional addiction does not begin with the body. It begins when your presence refuses to leave the mind. It is not what you do to people. It is what happens after you are gone. It is the silence you leave behind, the tension you never resolve, the questions that stay awake long after the conversation ends. Seduction without contact is not charm. It is psychological positioning. Once mastered, people move toward you without understanding why. What you are about to hear is not advice. It is the collapse of the identity you have been performing. 7 lessons are hidden inside this structure. Once they settle in, you do not improve. You become unavoidable. Stop watching. Step inside. Lesson 1. The power of mystery, the silence that addicted empires. Seduction does not begin with the body. It begins long before the first touch is even imagined. It is born in absence, in the void you leave behind. Mystery lives in the space between what you say and what you deliberately leave unsaid. It is not decoration, it is structure. When Cleopatra met Julius Caesar, she did not seduce with skin or submission. She seduced with disruption. She had herself carried into his presence, hidden inside a carpet. She revealed herself suddenly, unexpected and impossible to ignore. Not an invitation, a disturbance. That moment was engineered to awaken curiosity, not desire. Desire satisfies. Curiosity enslaves. Mystery creates a mental gap the other person feels compelled to fill. And the more they try to understand you, the deeper they sink into their own projection. Human beings are neurologically driven to resolve what they cannot explain. What is clear relaxes the mind. What is finished allows release, but what is incomplete hijacks attention. When you expose everything about yourself, interest fades. But when you reveal in layers, leave questions unanswered, and disappear when curiosity peaks, the brain shifts into obsession mode. This is not philosophy, it is biology. The brain despises unfinished loops. It is the same mechanism that forces binge watching. You become the series, and every disappearance ends on a cliffhanger. Machiavelli understood this better than most. He wrote that power is sustained not by truth, but by perception. Mystery is the perception of invisible power. It is the moment the other person senses something in you they cannot predict, access, or control. You do not explain everything. You do not react to everything. You do not expose every emotion. That restraint makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability is magnetic. In the modern world, mystery has almost vanished. People broadcast routines, emotions, and weaknesses in real time. They confuse visibility with value, wanting to be seen and becoming completely predictable. Seduction without touch is the opposite of exposure. It is the discipline of scarcity. It is the ability to be fully present without being available, to say something meaningful and then vanish. Casanova mastered this art. Mystery is not silence for its own sake, but suggestion. He made people curious about what would come next, weaponizing eye contact, tone, pauses, and timing. He never clarified his intentions. He allowed others to believe they were deciphering him, when in reality, he was reading them with precision. He understood that addiction is born from doubt. In modern life, this technique applies everywhere. In professional environments, those who speak less and observe more naturally command respect. In social settings, the one who does not react demonstrates authority. In seduction, the one who controls silence controls tension. When you do not respond immediately, the other person begins to imagine. And imagination works harder than effort ever could. Psychology calls this the psychic effect, the mind's fixation on unfinished experiences. The brain cannot let go of what feels unresolved. When someone cannot read your intentions, they think about you compulsively. This is how emotional addiction forms, not through touch, but through curiosity. In the digital world, this power multiplies. You do not need to respond instantly or document your life. You show fragments and leave gaps. Selective silence becomes a mirror. It reflects obsession with ruthless accuracy. Those who are not thinking about you do not feel the silence. Those who are feel it intensely. Mystery also lives in the body. Eye contact held just a second longer, a half smile that disappears too soon, a slow, deliberate movement. Small, controlled doses of attention make the other person wonder what you are thinking. The absence of explanation sustains attention. Uncertainty transforms attraction into fascination. Seduction without touch is the mastery of perception. You do not give everything. You give just enough to ignite doubt. While the other person attempts to understand you, you are studying them. While they seek clarity, you guide the darkness. This is power in its purest form, what Machiavelli would call an invisible weapon. Cleopatra understood this by making Caesar wait, speaking sparingly, moving with restraint and elegance. She created a mental arena where he projected his desires onto her. She conquered him by making him dream. Emotional addiction is born when you are not clear enough to be decoded, but present enough to be felt. Never be an open book, be an enigma. Touch may capture the body, but mystery imprisons the mind indefinitely. Whoever controls mystery controls desire. Whoever masters silence controls the game. Whoever understands this never needs to chase again. This is the essence of the first technique of creating emotional addiction without touch. Turning silence into presence, mystery into magnetism, and control into fascination. The body is limited, but the mind, once captivated, becomes a prisoner for life. Technique 2. The power of scarcity. Presence that becomes gold. The second technique lies in one brutal truth most people never learn. Presence loses power when it becomes predictable. The most common mistake of those who want to be desired is believing that constant attention creates attachment. It does not, it creates habit. And everything that becomes a habit eventually becomes invisible. Seduction without touch is born from scarcity, the ability to make someone miss you even while you are in the same room. Casanova understood this instinctively. He did not linger, overstay, or flood people with himself. He appeared like a comet, sudden, bright, disruptive. He entered ordinary life and bent the atmosphere around him, then vanished. What he left behind was not clarity, but a dangerous mix of enchantment and absence. The secret was timing. He knew exactly when to exit the stage. That disappearance was what created addiction. Pleasure, when continuous, loses flavor. But pleasure interrupted at its peak etches itself into memory. People who are too available are discarded like apps left open too long. The human mind does not value what is constant. It values what can be lost. Scarcity is the filter of value. Those who truly understand this game know one law above all others. The less you offer yourself, the more you are wanted. Psychology explains this through the scarcity effect studied by Robert Cialdini. He proved that the rarer something is perceived to be, the more attractive it becomes. The same rule applies to people. A rare, authentic, selective presence awakens the hunting instinct. The other person does not relax around you. They lean forward. They feel they must earn access. Inside that effort, emotional addiction begins to grow. Scarcity communicates power without explanation. When you are not always available, you transmit a silent message. My attention has weight. My energy is selective. My time is expensive. This creates respect, and beyond that, dependence. Because the mind starts circling one question: when will he appear again? Seduction without touch is the discipline of controlling presence. Most people try to fill silence with messages and reassurance. Sophisticated seducers understand something colder. Silence is part of the dialogue. Disappearance, when timed correctly, speaks louder than persistence ever could. When you withdraw strategically, the other person's mind tries to compensate. It imagines, idealizes, and fills gaps. The more mental effort invested, the stronger the attachment becomes, because the brain struggles to release what it helped construct. The imagination does not clearly separate fantasy from reality. It reacts as if imagined experiences are real. That is how a simple absence turns into a constant internal presence. This is how cinema creates icons. Think of Hannibal Lecter. He appears in very few scenes in The Silence of the Lambs, yet each scene is so dense he dominates the entire film. The secret is not frequency, it is density. It is better to be a rare presence that leaves scars than a constant one that dulls the senses. In modern life, scarcity must be applied with precision. In messages, do not reply immediately. Let time stretch, let imagination work. In social settings, speak less and observe more. When you speak rarely, every word lands heavier. In professional environments, the same law applies. The leader who speaks constantly exhausts attention. The one who speaks only when necessary reshapes the room. Scarcity is strategic power. It is the control of time and space used to sculpt perception. But understand clearly, scarcity is not total absence. Disappear completely and the bond breaks. Appear too often and value dissolves. The art lies in leaving at the exact moment the other person still wants you there. That moment is lethal because loss activates the brain's reward system. Dopamine floods the body. Pleasure mixed with anxiety forms the foundation of emotional addiction. This game demands self-control. Most people cannot tolerate not replying, not explaining, not chasing. But that restraint is what separates the average seducer from the emotional strategist. One needs to be seen, the other is missed. Cleopatra mastered this perfectly. She never rushed to anyone. Her presence was not casual, it was an event. When meeting kings and generals, she made them wait, sometimes for days. That waiting created expectation, and expectation created power. They arrived already unbalanced, already anxious, already seeking approval. This is what Machiavelli meant by making oneself desired before being asked. In the digital age, this technique is even more potent. You can be online and still be scarce. Scarcity is not physical absence, it is energetic selectivity. Be precise with what you share, with whom you engage, and how much time you offer. Mystery and scarcity are twin pillars. One creates curiosity, the other creates value. The brain associates effort with importance. When someone must work for even a fraction of your attention, they unconsciously elevate your value. Luxury markets are built on this law. Difficulty increases desire. Scarcity creates high emotional worth. This is not about pretending to be uninterested. It is about having purpose. People who are focused, grounded, and internally complete radiate scarcity naturally. They are not available on demand. Because of that, the world begins to pursue them. Machiavelli would say that power is not about being loved or feared. It is about being indispensable. Scarcity creates emotional indispensability. The other person feels they need you but cannot secure you. That tension destabilizes them. Inside that imbalance, addiction forms. In essence, seduction without touch is the art of dosage. You give enough to keep the fire alive, never enough to extinguish hunger. Leave them wanting. Turn absence into presence. When you master this, silence is not the end of conversation. It is the beginning of obsession. The one who learns to be scarce never needs to chase again. Lesson 3. The emotional mirror. The art of making the other person fall in love with themselves. This is where seduction stops being visible and becomes lethal. The third technique for creating emotional addiction without touch is the most dangerous one you will ever learn. Not because it promises pleasure, but because it rewires identity. This method does not seduce with gifts, affection, or words. It seduces with reflection. It is the power of becoming the other person's emotional mirror. The secret is simple but devastating. You make them feel that knowing you was actually a way of knowing themselves more deeply. When a human feels truly seen, the bond becomes chemical. Human beings are driven by a visceral hunger rarely discussed. The need to be validated, understood, recognized without explanation. Everyone wants to be seen, but few feel truly understood. That gap between who they are and who they feel allowed to be is where the emotional mirror enters. You do not rush to fill that gap. You observe it. You watch tone, body language, and speech patterns. What topics make their eyes sharpen? What stories do they repeat without realizing it? You absorb, you listen more than you speak. You let silence do the heavy work. Then, in precise doses, you reflect back what they most want to experience, not yourself. Robert Greene calls this seduction through strategic empathy. Machiavelli would call it manipulation of perception. While the other person feels empowered, understood, validated, control quietly moves into your hands. When you become someone's emotional mirror, you make them crave your presence. The more understood they feel, the deeper the dependency. This technique is easy to describe, difficult to master. The mirror does not talk about itself. It reflects and studies tone, body language, word choice, emotional tempo. Then it subtly adapts just enough to create emotional harmony. Psychology calls this rapport. The brain interprets synchronization as safety and trust. Where there is trust, there is openness. Casanova mastered this art with surgical precision. He made every woman feel singular, not because he lied, but because he adapted. With the shy, he slowed down. With the dominant, he resisted. With the intelligent, he provoked. He was not a man with many faces. He was an artist of perception. He understood one brutal truth. People do not fall in love with you. They fall in love with the version of themselves that awakens when they are with you. That is the core of the emotional mirror. It turns you into a magnetic field that adapts without losing its center. But this requires discipline. The weak react. The strong observe. The ordinary try to impress. The strategist creates admiration without effort. When you master this ability, you stop speaking to the conscious mind and begin influencing the unconscious, the place where logic dissolves and touch becomes optional. In practice, this means something very specific. You study the other person in silence. You notice speech patterns, micro-expressions, pauses, contradictions. Every detail becomes a clue to unmet emotional needs. When you identify those needs and reflect recognition back, you create something dangerous, a sensation of deep connection that feels almost spiritual. They think he understands me, but what actually happened was technical. You decoded their emotional map and reflected it back. This activates oxytocin, the bonding hormone, the same chemical release during intimacy, touch, sex, or affection. The emotional mirror triggers this without touching skin. The other person begins to feel pleasure simply by being near you. In the modern world, this technique is used by negotiators, political figures, therapists, elite communicators. They mirror posture, tone, and energy. The human brain is wired to trust what feels like itself. But the emotional mirror has limits, ethical and strategic. Used excessively, it becomes manipulative transparency. The key is balance. Reflect enough to bond, but preserve enough mystery to control. Step toward them emotionally, then step back into yourself. One step in, two steps grounded. Cleopatra mastered this with terrifying elegance. With Julius Caesar, she was composed, rational, ambitious. With Mark Antony, she was theatrical, intense, passionate. She did not fake, she amplified. She understood the mind falls in love with its own ego reflected back. So she offered each man the reflection he most wanted to recognize. This technique applies everywhere. At work, understanding what drives someone, status, security, recognition, and reflecting that need through language creates influence. In relationships, observing without judgment creates space. When someone reveals themselves, they surrender power. The emotional mirror is not persuasion, it is psychological dominance. You do not conquer through force. You conquer through completeness. You do not convince. You validate, and validation, when rare, becomes addictive. Machiavelli would say the wise ruler governs not with iron, but with illusion. The emotional mirror is the most powerful illusion of all. The illusion that someone finally understands you. When the mind believes this, it attaches. It does not want to let go because it has touched something every human being seeks: total acceptance. But here is the warning. To use the emotional mirror, you must be internally solid. If you lose your center, you dissolve. The amateur becomes whoever stands in front of him. The master reflects without disappearing. He remains calm, grounded, observant. While the other sinks into the illusion, he stays above the water, watching digitally. The principle is the same. Mirror response timing, mirror vocabulary, mirror emotional pace. Always subtle, never theatrical. Harmony creates dependence. Predictability creates boredom. In the end, the emotional mirror works like a drug. It gives the other person the sensation of being seen, heard, validated. Whoever tastes that once wants it again and again. It feeds something deeper than desire. It feeds the soul. This is the third technique. Do not react, reflect. When you become the mirror, the other person becomes a prisoner of their own reflection. And when they believe they love you, what they truly love is themselves through you. Lesson 4. Subtle induction. The power to plant thoughts without the other person realizing it. The fourth technique for creating emotional addiction without touch is not loud. It does not announce itself. It does not demand. It does not persuade openly. It slips in. It is the mastery of silent suggestion. It is the ability to make someone think, desire, and act in ways they believe were entirely their own choice. This is not influence you can point at. This is influence you feel after it has already worked. It is invisible power, communication between the lines, persuasion that never pushes, it guides. This is the technique of strategists, rulers, elite seducers who never appear to try. To induce without ordering, to lead without force, to conquer without revealing intent. Traditional seduction chases attention. Psychological seduction controls perception. At this level, the game is no longer about making the other person like you. It becomes something far more dangerous, making them think about you without understanding why. And this is achieved through subtle mental triggers. The rhythm of your speech, placement of pauses, emotion-loaded words, and most importantly, the calculated use of silence. Cleopatra was a master of this art. When she spoke with Julius Caesar, she did not try to convince him. She did not argue, she did not negotiate. She suggested. She spoke of destiny, legacy, empires that would outlive men. She spoke of greatness, never of herself. And yet, after every encounter, Caesar left believing she was not optional, that she was inevitable. That is induction, guiding the mind to a destination without ever showing the map. Modern psychology explains this through a mechanism called priming. Priming means this: the ideas, words, and images you introduce into someone's mind quietly shape how they interpret everything that comes after. If you speak about power, strength, dominance, leadership before speaking about yourself, the other person's mind automatically connects those qualities to you. You never had to say it. The master of induction never rushes. He builds atmosphere. His tone is calm, his pauses deliberate, his eye contact unhurried, his reactions minimal. Everything communicates something invisible. The words themselves matter less than the emotion they leave behind. And whoever controls emotion controls thought. Jordan Belfort understood this brutally well. He knew persuasion was not about speaking more. It was about making the other person imagine. He painted scenarios, not conclusions. He used phrases like, "Imagine what it will feel like when this happens," and then he stopped. He let silence finish the sentence. The other person's mind completed the picture, felt the emotion, and then accepted the idea as truth. In seduction, this principle is lethal. Induction is the difference between a compliment and an obsession. A direct compliment creates gratitude. An indirect suggestion creates curiosity. Saying, "You are attractive," closes the loop. It ends the moment. Saying, "There is something about you I have not figured out yet," opens 1,000 doors. The first statement is a fact. The second is a question mark. And the human mind cannot rest in front of a question mark. Subtle induction also operates through storytelling. Machiavelli understood something most people still ignore. Humans are not moved by logic. They are moved by images, myths, and narratives. When you tell a story that mirrors someone's hidden desires, they step into it unconsciously. They see themselves inside the narrative. They feel the emotion. And when the story ends, they experience the ideas as if they were their own. This is the most elegant manipulation of all. Transferring authorship.